Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate, Mr. Chairman, you being here today, and I know you're doing what you think is best for our country, and I think you know it's our job to question that, particularly something of this significance. You just indicated that the $700 billion is to try to stop a short-term problem, and then we need to get about really fixing the problem. And you suggested that was a lot more regulations. My biggest concern at this point that the casualty of all of this is going to be our belief in the free enterprise system. And the unbridled capitalism is being blamed for this problem. You know, I learned after 25 years in business that you really can't solve a problem unless you understand the root causes. And it's hard for me to look at this and trace it back and over the years without recognizing that this is a problem that was clearly caused by government. Obviously, easy, cheap credit, you know, government requirements that banks make subprime loans, the implied government guarantee, which everyone with a wink and nod knew that that was an explicit government guarantee. Essentially what we did by trying to use the markets to put more people in houses is we removed the accountability of risk from the free enterprise system, and it only works when there's a good balance between risk and reward. I don't think anyone could question that that's what the government did, is that we made it low risk, big rewards to sell a lot of these mortgages, move them around, and now they're embedded in all areas of our credit market. And free markets are being blamed for this. And my question to you is, and I said this on a conference call the other day, and I'm not sure I've gotten a straight answer. I would like to know, do you believe this is a failure of the free enterprise system or another example of how government intervention destroys the dynamics of a free market system?
Well, we can discuss the origins of the situation. I think there are different points of view on that. I think that there were elements of the financial system, and let me amplify in just a second, such as the inadequate risk management and other things that amplified the problem and have created the crisis we see now. Historically, precisely because the financial system has such a critical function in the economy, and because of the too big to fail problem and the problem of runs on banks and those sorts of things, there's always been deposit insurance, supervision, some regulation of the financial system. What I was saying, I don't think I used the word heavier regulation or anything like that. What I had in mind was reform. I think our regulatory system now is a patchwork system. It is not well structured. In some places it's too heavy, in other places it's non-existent. So I do think the financial system needs to be regulated, and there are deep historical and economic reasons for that. But it's important that it be done in a way which, on the one hand, protects the safety of the economy and avoids crises of the type we're currently having, but on the other hand, allows for innovation, the contributions that financial sector can make to growth and diversification of the economy. So I think there's a lot of blame to go around, and to make a long story short, but I do think that part of the problem is that the regulatory system we have is needing of reform, which may involve, in some cases, less regulation, but smarter regulation.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we don't need a good regulatory structure for our financial markets. It just is very clear to me that the accountability of risk was removed, and the too big to fail was primarily the government-created entities of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and they were major players in all of this. I'm concerned that that's being left out of a lot of the word coming from the administration, the Federal Reserve. None of these proposals would actually support more free market activity and seem to actually take the burden of taxes and regulations off of our economy. It would seem the administration, while looking short-term with this immediate bailout, would insist on some long-term changes in tax structures, such as lowering our corporate tax rate or eliminating the capital gains We created this Sarbanes-Oxley monster in order to tell us when Bear Stearns was going to go out of business, but it didn't. It didn't do anything it was supposed to, but we know it's chased capital offshore, but there's no advocacy from the White House or the Federal Reserve that, hey, we need to fix these things that are running capital out of our markets. And so it is very frustrating for me as someone who believes in free markets and free enterprise that the blame of all this is being laid at the fact that we didn't have enough regulation and oversight, when I know as somebody who's been in business, there's no amount of government regulation that can stop the corruption in a system if you take the risk out of it.
Senator, first of all, on Fannie and Freddie, the Federal Reserve has long raised the issue of the systemic risk there, and I think you're absolutely right on that case. With respect to regulatory reform, the Federal Reserve contributed to, but of course Treasury took the lead in the presentation of the blueprint that Secretary Paulson presented before the crisis began, and that was in a response to this issue of capital moving offshore, as you put it. And his objectives in that blueprint was to try to simplify the system, remove redundancies, reduce costs, and make the regulatory system more industry-friendly in that respect. So again, I reiterate that I'm not sure that what's needed necessarily is heavier, more regulation, but better, cleaner, more efficient regulation.
Do you agree that the insulating the market from natural risk creates a problem?
Well, what we have is a problem where the financial system, because of too big to fail or just because of other instabilities like runs on banks, historically has had the potential to have very widespread effects on the rest of the economy if it becomes unstable, more so than other industries. And so there has been a long-term, back to the introduction of deposit insurance or before, a long-term view that some regulation is needed of the financial system. And given that, and you said yourself that it's needed, I think we just need to do it as well as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.